Hey everybody, it's me, Calvin Chambers, the creator of Icarus Metro, and I'm here on the Innovative Dream podcast. I'm here to talk to you guys today about a new project. Yes, a new up and coming project that's coming out. Now, I have here as a guest on the show, Connor. Can you tell us about yourself?
With pleasure. Hi, everyone. My name is Connor Gatteni, and I am the CEO of Dragon Multimedia and the creator of the upcoming project Shyft.
Okay. Now, can you tell us a little bit about Shyft?
Shyft is a comic series.
Okay.
It's the first major project fully with my involvement because if you don't know about Dragon Multimedia, it's a multimedia company.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, when I have involvement, you will see a little Dragon brand or a Wild Animation Network brand here and there because it usually signals my involvement. This one is one where it's fully my project and no one else can claim that it's theirs because I am the creator of it.
Okay. So, can you tell us a little bit about your story as a creator? What got you into creating comics?
It's a really interesting story. So back in 2011, we're going really back. So when I was younger, I always loved comics and I always loved the idea of storytelling.
Okay.
And one of those ways was back in 2011, I started doing a little bit of Go anime creating. It wasn't until about 2014, 15 that I fully started really doing Go anime as a bit of a hobby on my YouTube. And then it was around then that I met my partner Edouard Mew, or Geo, and we formed what would become the current version of the Wild Animation Network brand, which is an animation collab company where me and Geo would collab on projects.
Okay.
And it went on for about until 2016 when we decided to drop off Go Animate because we didn't like some of the decisions they were doing and it felt like a good time. We did a little bit here and there 2017, 2018, but we fully dropped off later on. And then I started doing various projects, some shorts for other people. I focused on school life and I also did practice my editing skills like YouTube poops, which are edited versions of other people's content for comedic purposes, which really help with editing skills and creativity.
Hmm.
And it was there I really started finding my passion for comics.
Okay.
Now, about late 2020, I was really starting to kick back up into the content sphere. Me and Mew were starting to collab a little more. We were, at least, Mew was gearing up for what would become Oscar Not Reborn, and it was starting that thing up. And it was around then that I really started really wanting to do some more stuff. So early this year, we created Dragon Multimedia LLC, which would be the content company of me and all the stuff I create and help produce on. And it was then I fully started finalizing what would become my comic Shyft and fully started getting involved in projects like Oscar Not Reborn and other projects that have yet to be announced.
Okay. All right. It sounds good. I mean, it sounds like your journey was a long and rigorous journey. And,
Mhm.
without the different trials and tribulations that you faced in the past, you wouldn't be here today doing what you do best.
Mhm.
So let me ask you this shift. Now I don't want to go too much into detail in the story because we want to leave that for the readers who are
Mhm.
going to be reading that book once it comes out. But can you tell us a little bit about what you're planning to do for the release of the book? Are you seeking a Kickstarter route? Are you seeking an Indiegogo route? What's your idea of a release plan for this?
The plan is at the end of August, we are doing a Indiegogo. It
Okay.
will last for about a month or two, about until the end of September, early October, and then we will start finalizing the book, finishing up art that we still need to do, and then we're planning on shipping it late 2021.
Okay. 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 That sounds good. That sounds good. So, why Indiegogo, if I may ask? Because this is something that I know that is a big debate in the community, whether or not it's the comic space community or it's the creator space, that people typically have only two choices. I mean, if you're not going the long-term crowdfunding route of Patreon, you're going Indiegogo or Kickstarter. So why did you choose Indiegogo?
The reason why I chose Indiegogo was it felt more like a really good place to do comics because with Kickstarter having been a backer of several projects, I've been more interested in doing comic projects on Indiegogo than Kickstarter because with Kickstarter, the funding isn't always guaranteed compared to Indiegogo, where if you're going to back something, you have to give the payment up front. And I feel like with a book where I've accidentally had failed payments in the past that I
Okay.
had to fix up, I feel like it was safer to do Indiegogo because one, there was more of a fan base for comics there than Kickstarter, and two, it's just a lot safer because the funding you get is more guaranteed because the system works a little better with those things.
Honestly, I believe that. And me personally, I've just recently released Icarus Metro. This my first comic from my brand under the Innovative Dream LLC, and I released it in February, and it was very scary at times, because I mean it was my first project. I got it successfully funded, but with a couple of canceled pledges at the end of the Kickstarter, and then it was hard raising the capital for meeting the goals. So honestly, I mean, I don't know if for Icarus Metro 2 I'm going to go to Indiegogo rate, because I feel like I'm already building a little fan base under that Kickstarter community. But I may do another separate book because I'm planning a universe myself, and I'm pretty sure you are too for
Mhm.
Shyft. So let me ask you this regarding Shyft. What's the inspiration behind Shyft?
There are multiple inspirations. My dog Bianca was one of them. My dad was a big one. He got me into
And
comics.
who's the first one? Just so the
My
viewers.
little dog Bianca.
Oh, your
She
dog.
is a white Maltese.
Okay, okay.
She has helped me a lot during these past few months, and she is a big inspiration. My second is my dad because he got me into a lot of the old entertainment. It's how I got into a lot of things.
Okay.
I used to read a lot of comics as a kid. I one that comes to mind is the Sonic ones,
Hmm.
and it's also the cartoons I used to watch. Like Ben 10's a big one, Pokemon's a big one, Sonic X is a big one, and I feel like with Shyft, it was definitely capturing that 2000s animation vibe in a comic form, which was something that I really wanted to do because it's such an interesting style that hasn't really been really looked at. Because yeah, you got that cartoony style, but it's usually more simplified
Okay.
to a point where it's a very different style from the 2000s one. And I felt like having a little bit of the 2000s with a little bit of an animation vibe would really be a cool look for the comic.
It would. I mean, that honestly reminds me of I want to say early 2000s Jetix on ABC Family. A lot of it was anime inspired. I mean, there were some anime that did play on Jetix, but there was also like anime inspired cartoons, like that one with the teenage superhero monkey robots. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that one had a really complicated name. Like, oh man, I forgot the name of that one because
Yeah,
I
but
have vague memories of it. But the problem is that the name is so complicated.
yeah, name's so complicated you can't remember. But it gives me that type of feel. Now you want to put out these stories, you want to put out Shyft, and I have to ask this question. And I understand that you read a lot of comics as a child. You grew up on comics. You grew up on 2000s cartoons. You just have an overall passion for this. So why comics instead of writing it as a novel with pictures?
It mainly comes from how I like to tell stories because
Hmm.
it's I'm not going to shame traditional novels.
Okay.
As I grew older, I found an appreciation for them. I read a ton during middle school, high school. They have been a great pastime.
Hmm.
But the problem is that because it's not a visual medium, you have to be a lot more descriptive. And sometimes, if you're more descriptive, you will, for sometimes, you'll basically lose the reader in the description.
True.
So the story goes by the wayside, and it's basically the description in the book.
That's true.
But with a comic, it's a lot more of a visual medium. So you have to challenge yourself by balancing what you would do in a film or a TV show, which, coming from a little bit of a short film background, is a really good challenge, and also balancing the idea of having to be a bit descriptive. Because you can't always have a motion comic because people will imagine it in their head, similar to a book, because there's only so much you can visualize on a comic page. So it's really a good challenge, especially comparing the original outline to the current script. It was definitely a interesting experience seeing and comparing how different the two products became.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I definitely agree with that, and that's why I haven't, specifically wrote a novel yet. Another question for you: what type of obstacles have you faced while working on this project? And I know there's a lot, so I probably want to hear about maybe three. What are the three obstacles that you face on this project that you know to do differently next time?
One was getting everybody together because
Okay.
the biggest problem with that was there was a lot of creators that I wanted to potentially work with that either never got back or were just unavailable.
Hmm.
I remember there was a couple of artists, like Are You Dragon was one. I tried contacting various places, and sadly, I wasn't able to get back from her and several others. And I'm kind of happy that I was able to fully get an idea of networking because that's how I came across Lingo, my current artist, and it's how Shift really started to get its visual identity.
Okay.
And then it's also how I found Michael, ironically, who was my first pick. And then I later came back because I was like, okay, I cannot find anyone because I thought at one point he had ghosted me because he had just not replied. But having worked with him and talked with him, it's clearly that he didn't mean to, and it was just probably chances are that the issue was he probably just didn't see the email back. Simple as that.
Okay.
And it's always about going back and knowing your networking skills. Once you hone them, you can get a lot of creative talent who will be willing to work with you and actually become great friends and great coworkers. My second was definitely it's a bit with funding because while
That's the biggest.
I'm able to get a job and do stuff, the biggest problem is with a book like this and all the rewards that we're doing, it's about a couple thousand. You could probably do it a lot cheaper when you do a second run or, for example, a second campaign because you already have most of the stuff. But getting that early funding to set it up, I had to save a lot of money for that stuff. And again, it does get costly over time as the bills pay up. But luckily, we were able to get through and we're almost ready to launch, which is probably a big breakthrough because once the Indiegogo comes in, we'll put all the focus on that. And that you don't really need money for. Yeah, you can advertise on sites, but ironically, the biggest advertising tool is literally just spreading the word, ironically. Because with indie comics, people are willing to buy your comic. So the biggest free advertisement is literally just be willing to talk to people, go on other shows, literally promote the world. Like, I've been on a couple shows recently from various creators, some who are known, some are unknown. And the great thing was every time we got someone who would be interested who joined the mailing list, because there's always someone in the audience who is really interested in the book, but you just have to share the word and really build up that profile saying, hey, I have this book and I really want to see if you guys are interested. And ironically, my third big obstacle was, ironically, the thing I just talked about, making yourself known. Because it's easy to get someone to work on the project. It's harder to promote. And while it is easy with like the podcast and stuff, to say it's completely easy is not exactly true. See, I'll admit it. During the mid parts, we I thought at least we would launch a lot earlier, but that was wishful thinking on my part because I had done no networking. Like, people didn't even know who Dragon was. It wasn't until I was given the advice to, you got to push this on your own. Because I'm not going to fully quote what Michael said, but I'm going to give a little descriptive. He's like, you're good at being a creative, but you haven't done the main important part, which was the promoting, the marketing. And I completely agree because when I was thinking this from a creative standpoint, unfortunately, I had almost forgot about the marketing part because no one would be interested in my book unless I basically became the spokesman. And again, when I started pushing for the podcast, I realized, holy crap, this actually is very useful. Not to mention, it actually opened me up to a lot of people who not only helped the project, but also became really good friends, willing to help out on other things, and actually opened the floodgates to more audiences and more eyes, which was a real life-opening experience because not having many friends, I was just shocked by how many people who were not only willing to help, but also as a first timer, actually share their experiences, give feedback, all this very useful stuff that I didn't even know about until I just knocked on people's door and said, hey, I'm a first time creator. Would you be willing to chat a little bit? And it's something really important that I've learned over the past few weeks and months because if there's no marketing, there's no comic.
Yeah, no marketing, no comic, no campaign, nothing, no future issues. That it's it. And it's crazy because I just recently I've seen a lot of things recently. I've seen some Kickstarters fail because of no marketing. Um I've seen people market work, getting campaign companies, getting, Google AdSense, getting, all sorts of things to help campaign, if they don't want to be that one-on-one spokesperson to just identify themselves with the brand. Me, I do all my promotions myself, but I mean, I'm no expert, far from it, and I wish there was a book on this, how can you do this without burning out?
I could give you some advice.
Oh,
Having from
definitely share, yeah, share those. Yeah.
having a marketing background since it's one of my minors,
Okay.
one of the biggest things is identifying your audience, doing your research, because you don't need to be a spokesperson. Sometimes you might be just the man behind the mask and have that as spokesperson. Put on a crazy voice changer and have that as your personality and make money off it.
Okay.
It's doing your research because if you do the research, you realize, so this works and this doesn't. And then you keep going with what works and then trying out new things to see if it pays off, trying risks. It can really open you up, especially with advertising, because even if you don't want to be a spokesperson, don't be afraid to not promote. Like, be open to trying out new forms of advertising. Try YouTube ads, try banner ads, try all these things, and also do your research. Because if you don't do your research, the biggest problem is if you just run into a campaign and expect the money to come, it will not. And if you try running in with a big campaign but nobody's interested, you'll also flop. Like, I've seen so many Kickstarters I've backed that never really were funded because the problem is the advertising wasn't there.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. So where can we find your work? Where can we find the Kickstarter? Where can we sign up for the newsletter?
You can sign up for the newsletter in two ways. You can find my work at dragonmultimediallc.com. There is a mail list on the site that signs you up for the Dragon mailing list. There's also Connor Gatteni, which is also under Dragon Multimedia LLC on Facebook, which you can tell because it has the green little neon dragon, which is, if you have no idea, it is this icon, which is a green background neon and a white dragon. That is the official Dragon Facebook. There is also Dragon Multi LLC on Twitter and Twitch, which, if you go to Dragon Multimedia LLC, you will find the pre-launch link. Otherwise, if you want to get linked to the pre-launch page, it is indiegogo.com/projects/Shyft, which with a Y, SHYFT issue -1 -new beginnings /coming soon.
Okay. All right. Well, I just want to thank you again for coming on the Innovative Dream podcast. Thank you for the wisdom and the insight that you shared with us today. Do you have anything remaining that you want to say to the viewers listening?
Thank you for believing in me, and thank you for watching and your time.
Okay. All right. And that is it, everybody, for the Innovative Dream podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Bye.